I love 1988's Die Hard. It's a classic movie for a reason, and really, what's there not to like? It's got really great, emotionally gripping, suspenseful action sequences. Like, I was surprised watching this again about how suspenseful all of these really are. It's got really great, witty banter that is surprisingly funny. Like, a lot of people don't talk about how funny this movie is. It's actually really funny. And it's got a great emotional core with the relationship of John and his wife, Holly. But if there's one thing that I like most about this movie, it's the villain, Hans Gruber, played by the lovable Alan Rickman. Hans is somehow all at once scummy, likable, duplicitous, funny, and oddly nice. Like, I know he's supposed to be the villain of the movie, but there's a lot of times watching this where I just get so enchanted by Rickman's performance and the way that he carries himself in every scene. And a lot of people have already pointed this out, but if this were any other movie, Hans very easily could have been the protagonist, pulling off some sort of Ocean's 11 style heist. And honestly, I just love him for that. So when I heard that Nando, over at Nando V Movies, was putting together a bunch of different creators to talk about their favorite villains and different scenes with them, I knew I had to chip in. And who better to pick than my favorite film villain of all time, Hans Gruber. Oddly enough, Hans actually wasn't my first choice. There was a lot of other characters and scenes I was considering. The first thing I thought of doing was a scene from that animated Harley Quinn show. If you haven't seen it by now, it's amazing. You should definitely go check it out. And then I thought about talking about everyone's favorite psychotic Superman, Homelander.
Stay the fuck back or I'll laser you, goddammit! I'll laser every fucking one of you!
Oh, the boys. Good times. But in the end, I knew I had to talk about my favorite film villain, Hans. And there were a lot of scenes that I considered once I knew that I was going to be talking about him. First scene I thought of was that classic scene where him and McClane are doing that back and forth over the radio, and McClane delivers his classic line of "Yippee-ki-yay." But then I realized that's more of a John scene than a Hans scene. And then I thought about that scene when he's going through all the hostages, talking to them about Mr. Takagi, trying to figure out who he is, not only demonstrating his vast knowledge, but also how confident he is in any situation, intimidating the rest of the hostages into giving up their man. And then the last scene I thought of was the final scene of the movie when Hans and John go back and forth, and right when it looks like he's about to shoot him by repaying his line he said earlier, "Yippee-ki-yay," and they start laughing as they both seem to realize how awkwardly funny tonight's events have been. It's kind of funny to think about how random it all was, and none of it seemed to be planned. And both of them just have a simple laugh at realizing that. And right before Hans can shoot him, John manages to pull the gun on both him and his henchman and deliver that classic line.
Happy trails, Hans.
However, in the end, I knew there was only one scene I could pick. Only one scene that was truly one villainous scene.
Get on the jet to Tokyo and ask the chairman. I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me.
Okay.
Hans shooting Mr. Takagi in his office after he doesn't give him the safe codes is one of the best scenes I've seen in any movie. It's not only surprising and utterly violent and gory, but it's also amazingly well written. And that is a scene I've chosen, so join me as I begin to break down this scene, and I'll go into detail about every little line in it and try and show you the clip and then pause it briefly so that I can explain why it is I love it so much.
The code, please.
It's useless to you. There are 7 safeguards on our vault, and the code key is only one of them. You'll never get it open.
Then there's no reason not to tell it to us.
Ooh, the simple way the scene starts. Hans's simple declaration, even adding please at the end of it, once more accentuating how much of a gentleman he sees himself as. And Takage's frantic, almost like terrified response as he slowly unsilences his weapon, hinting that he might have to use it. And then the simple way he exerts dominance by putting the gun down. It shows how confident this man is and how in control he truly is.
I told you. It's not over yet.
Okay. Oh, see, this is what I'm talking about. That little look from Hans and the way that they subtly imply that Carl and Theo have a bet going on whether or not Hans is going to have to kill Takage. This is what I'm talking about when I say this movie's way funnier than people give it credit for. That was like a scene from The Office. I love it so much.
It's a very nice suit, Mr. Takagi. To be ashamed to ruin it.
Ooh, the confidence on display from Hans yet again. It's so amazing how simply he controls Takagi with that one sentence, calling back to their earlier conversation about suits and how he complimented Takagi about his, and he doesn't want to ruin it, as he says, subtly implying that something bad might happen. And then that cut to Takagi's face where you see that he does fully understand what might happen.
I'm going to count to 3. There will not be a 4. Give me the code.
And we've seen this scene in action movies 100 times. This is the scene where the villain begins his ominous countdown to get the audience on the edge of their seat before the hero jumps in and saves the innocent person, taking out all the bad guys. That's the reason that they cut to John, after all. Such a simple scene. It's going to be so great to see that.
1, 2.
And now it's not just Hans who's terrifying the audience. The music ratcheting up there, getting louder and louder with each number he counts, getting closer and closer to 3. The cut to Takagi showing how terrified he is, and then cut to Carl and Theo to show they're not flinching, neither is Hans, as he gets closer and closer to 3.
I don't know it, I'm telling you. Get on the jet to Tokyo and ask the chairman. I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me.
Okay.
And there it is, the moment that shocked me ever since I saw this for the first time. He actually just shot him. He got to 3 and he shot him. Something we've never seen a villain do. It always either ends up with the villain showing mercy or the hero jumping in to save them. And it's important to note that this isn't just violence for violence. It's the tension of the reveal. It's a lot like that scene from Invincible. The reason why that scene is so surprising isn't just because of the gory deaths. It's because as it's going on, you expect something to happen. It can't end like that, but it does. And that's the most shocking part. The way that the filmmakers use our expectations against us.
We do it the hard way. Tony, see if you can dispose of that. Carl, you better go and check on Heinrich's work up on the machine floor.
And that's it. That's how the scene ends. I know technically it isn't over there. They follow John out and all that. But in terms of Hans's impact on the scene, that's where it ends. I do like how they bring back that joke from Theo and Carl when he gives him the money. Funny little murder joke that goes on throughout the movie. That's sort of a trend throughout these movies, murder jokes. One of my favorite things. But in terms of a villain scene, I don't know how you get much better than that. I've never seen another scene that fully establishes everything that you need to fear and everything you need to know about a villain in one scene through one singular action, and makes you fully afraid of this character, not just for yourself, but also more importantly for John, who had to witness that.